Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Rampage League. We have got a great Week 5 matchup for you guys tonight between the GRIN Reapers and EOD Crab Wranglers. My name is Gordo, and I am joined tonight by Rudude. Rudude, how are you doing this evening?
Very well, thank you, Gordo. This is Divinely Takes Over Rampage right here. We've got a banger game in store for you guys. 4-0 team up against a 2-1 team, so high stakes on the line could start to set the pace here for Division number 4.
Yeah, certainly can here, and we're going to be getting right into some pocket picks and bans, seeing a lot of interesting top laners hitting that ban list right away. We got the Kale, we got the Kled, we got the Alawi, we got the Urgot, and let's see if we can get a fifth one here as well as the Crab Wranglers pick their last one, but it is going to be the Morgana ban.
Disappointing. Mid and jungle left untouched with these bans coming on out then, and with 4 top lane bans, I want to see some top lane action, regardless of the champions that are picked. They put so much priority on that role. I'm expecting there to be a fair few scraps, some skirmishes going on to get us built into this first game here. Seraphine going to be the opening lock-in for the GRIN Reapers here. Very standard, very traditional B1 pick.
Yeah, definitely is, and going to be seeing where that's going to be flexed to. Can be taken in the mid lane, can be taken at support, but it's going to get responded to by the Hecarim here. We certainly know where that one's going to be going, right into the jungle, and the Tristana as well. Also a bit of a flex pick, but seeing a lot more 80 carry performance as of late.
Definitely in the lower elos, seeing Tristana played as a bot laner more so than anything else. And with the dive duo that they've already drafted for themselves, the Crab Wranglers, clearly very obvious what they're trying to accomplish. They're going to be opting into pretty much run at you face first to try and dish out their damage as fast as possible, which is kind of exactly what a Seraphine wants, to be honest, here with the healing and the ulti that you can pass through many people. It definitely favors having a few teams running on into you here. The Caitlyn as well can set up those trap lines that they've locked in for themselves, can make it difficult for Tristana to find those easy rocket jumps through. So definitely a decent answer to come through down on the bot side, especially in the early game with Tristana getting range as she levels. The early game prowess that Caitlyn has with that 650 range should be able to put Caitlyn in a good position in the early game.
Yeah, and a lot of what's brought Tristana into the meta lately has been that it can have a very successful laning phase against a lot of these late game hyper carries that have been getting picked up, the Sennas of the world, the Jinxes, those sorts of things. But Caitlyn going to kind of turn that on its head here, as we should expect that to have a pretty decent time early on, as long as it doesn't find itself getting caught on out by any rocket jumps or anything of the sort. And the Ornn going to be brought through to back up these two squishy champions over for the GRIN Reapers. That is going to be a Victor lock-in coming through from the Crab Wranglers. That one is going to be holding it down in the mid lane here. And now they have a good opportunity to ban away some junglers or some mid laners that they don't want to see on the other side.
Very much different styles of draft coming out in terms of the picks that have been generated from both of the squads, with GRIN Reapers focusing, we're assuming, their bot lane and the top laner here, and then with Crab Wranglers, of course, taking mid, jungle, and then the ADC role. The pools can very easily be pinched by either of these sides. Expect GRIN Reapers to find a favourable matchup, or at least a not horrible matchup for the Ornn. You can see the Volibear ban taken away. Wouldn't be surprised to see another top lane ban come out, maybe even a Mordekaiser ban off the table. Traditionally a very decent laning matchup into the Ornn. And for the Crab Wranglers, they have a sort of similar situation where they can get themselves a good matchup in the jungle and any favourable matchups in the mid lane that they so desire.
Yeah, and they're going to ban away this Corki as well to make sure that that scaling option not going to be brought out against the Victor. There's still quite a few safe team fighty mids that we could see coming through from the Reapers there that they would like with this kind of AoE team fighty comp that they've already started to develop for themselves. Also going to find out a little bit more information about the Crab Wranglers draft here, as they are going in for their 4th pick. Hovering this Swain. I'm a big Swain fan, Rudude. It's my most played this season, and might be locked on in here at the support position. Could also be flexed to top, though. It's been rumored. I've heard of it.
Legend has it that Swain top lane still exists in Season 11. And Swain in this composition, nah, I'm not such a fan of Gordo. You might be all aboard the Swain hype train. In a composition that wants to go forward here, the Crab Wranglers have sort of put themselves in a little bit of a pigeonhole here. It's a good little pick that they've got with the Swain, you know, the pick potential more so than anything else. Definitely something to keep note of. But Swain excels when teams coming into you, and when you've drafted the Hecarim, drafted the Tristana. That's maybe not so much the case. Caitlyn and Seraphine not known for their diving capabilities, so to speak, and they are in fact going to be flexing that Seraphine around with the Zyra coming on through in the supposed support role to make a very potent bot lane.
Yeah, and Swain doesn't have the best time up against a lot of the other mages down here, so that is going to be a very viable flex down into the bot lane. That Zyra-Caitlyn duo going to be dishing out a lot of poke damage at a pretty substantial range, and it is going to be a tough matchup for Tristana Swain to deal with. And now what we're going to see what they want to go with last year. They're going to lock in the Orianna here, so it's actually looks like it's going to be Victor top all along.
You look to be very much correct in that assertion. We will have to wait and see how the draft plays out here, because it is going to be an unexpected top laner from the Crab Wranglers. That is, I think, the best way that we could put it here. The very AP-oriented squad that Crab Wranglers have got for themselves. I say very AP-oriented. Tristana and Hecarim going to be dishing out a fair portion of physical damage themselves, so can't say that they've got the worst damage spread at all here, and especially against an Ornn, it's going to make it pretty difficult for himself and Sejuani to get items effectively here. When you're buying those tank stats, you typically opt into one item over the other, or one stat block over the other, more so than anything else, post the mythic. So when you get past that marker, it might be a little bit more difficult to try and find successes, and really sort of figuring out where your laning opponents are is going to be the key to building correctly here.
Yeah, and it's going to be a pretty clear split on which side lane we want to see each of these teams play to, as the Crab Wranglers have got this counter pick in the top from this flex around here. The Victor should have a pretty favorable time up against the Ornn, has the natural range versus melee advantage, and should be able to continuously dish out a pretty fair amount of poke damage on that pick. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, as we already kind of discussed, the Grin Reapers have a very aggressive duo in this Caitlyn and Zyra, going to be bringing out so much range and so much damage that it's going to be very tough for the side of the Crab Wranglers to really navigate it here. But they do have a lot of early game pressure here from this Hecarim. He's going to be farming up a lot faster than the Sejuani, and should be able to present a lot more of that omnipresent meta threat that we see from a lot of junglers in the current meta. Whereas the Sejuani, she's going to take a little bit to scale up. She's going to be quite the force in these team fights along with this Ornn later on, but it's going to take a bit for her to scale there.
And to touch back to your bot lane point here, Gordo, Caitlyn Zyra, you'd mentioned a very potent bot lane duo, but the sort of answer to these enchanter supports, these magic damage users, is all in, is that engage style support, and Swain doesn't necessarily fit the ideals that a tank support does, but has a very similar sort of situation with the pick potential that he has with the never move, with the passive pullback as well. You can definitely get an all-in going with a Swain support here. Now, the issue, of course, being that if you're going all in on a Caitlyn Zyra lane, they themselves have very good tools to not necessarily disengage that situation, but to deal damage as you're jumping in. We already talked about the traps. The Zyra plants as well are going to be potent if the Tristana chooses to jump on in. So rocket jump with caution would be my advice, but overall looking to use the Swain for maybe some poke, and then once you've got that down, you can try and opt into an all-in, because Zyra in the early game, of course, notoriously squishy.
Yeah, and something I want to note here about the Grim Reapers comp is the Grin Reapers comp rather, is that they do have a lot of this long-range, non-committal engage. They have access to the Call of the Forge God from Ornn. They have access to the Glacial Prison from the Sejuani. They have access to the Encore from Seraphine. And all of these tools are going to let them try to pick people off really far away, but they're also not going to involve flinging a champion into the other team and risking taking a bad fight. They're going to be able to choose not to go in on these engages once they decide to force them. Whereas the side of the Crab Wranglers, they pretty much need Hecarim to just be launching himself into the back line in order to actually get fights started, and that brings with it inherent risks that they could be punished, especially with some of these more disengaged CC focused tools that the Grin Reapers have for themselves here.
Precisely, it's exactly what the Grin Reapers want. Zyra, probably the most notable champion that is going to excel when champions are just piling on into her, when you've got those saplings mixed up and ready to go. You're definitely not going to be wanting to run on in through those plants. Very nicely, very cautiously is going to be the case that Hecarim will have to take here. And for the Crab Wranglers, their draft sort of is just a little bit off, because they've got themselves this Hecarim who wants to be going in, but he doesn't really have any friends that dive in with him. Tristana can go forward in a composition that enables that, But overall, the Hecarim is going to be a bit alone on that front line, driving on in here. Maybe Swain as well to try and buy some space. And space is going to be an operative part of the Crab Wranglers team fight here, because like you say, if the Hecarim goes too far forward, he's going to get separated and die, and then it is just a 4 backline members of Crab Wranglers that can get ran over by the double front line that Grin Reapers have got for themselves. And to that point as well, Hecarim isn't a out-and-out tank, he's a bruiser tank, right? Uses sustain from Conqueror, from W, and from out-damaging the opponents to keep himself in that front line and keep himself relevant, whereas Sejuani and Ornn, on the other hand, are 2 true tanks. They don't want to be building any of these magic damage items or anything along those lines. They're true Sunfire, Turbo Chem tank, whatever you want to go for your mythic. They're going to be the ones that are really making it hard for the Crab Wranglers to cut through. Now we look at their tank shredding capability. There's a bit there. You can expect Liandry's to come across both of these mages. You can expect Tristana to have a Kraken Slayer as well. There are a lot of tools to deal with the tanks, but they'll probably have to deal. They will be dealing with them slower than the Hecarim gets dealt with himself.
Yeah, for sure there. And a lot of that, in order to be that beefy frontliner that we're going to need the Hecarim to be for this kind of composition for the Crab Wranglers, be great to have an advantage coming on in. He's got an opportunity to do that here because he is facing down this Sejuani, who I'm going to just say is not as good of a ganker early on as the Hecarim. Does not in this team comp have access to any of those melees that really help her stack up that passive really quickly to be a huge gank threat. Nothing like the Renekton or the Set here. The only melee laner she has is going to be this Ornn, and that's not really where you want to be forcing these ganks on through. And Ornn's not going to be auto-attacking the Victor a massive amount anyway. So Joker is really going to have a lot of onus on himself and a lot of opportunity here to provide pressure early in a way that the Bully is going to really struggle to on this pick.
You're quite right. Sejuani into the Hecarim, it feels like an answer for the late game more so than an answer for the early game, and Joker is going to be that person who we're looking to on Crab Wranglers to just pump out as many early game ganks as possible, start that snowball, and make it so that these compositional differences that we've identified don't inherently matter because you just run over them in the team fights. And coming into the weekend as well, of course, Grin Reapers are our 4-0 team here. They're the team that we're maybe with predetermined expectations going to be the ones that we're looking to take the games here. So Joker, definitely a very tall task on his shoulders.
Definitely is. We're going to need to see how he is able to perform on the Rift once we get there. So we're going to take a quick break here, get loaded on up into the game, but do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back with Game 1 of Grin Reapers up against EOD Crab Wranglers. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Risen Rampage Premade Week 5. We have got GRIN Reapers up against EOD Crab Wranglers here for Game 1, and pretty interesting draft coming out across of the EOD Crab Wranglers at that, with quite a lot of flex picks going on all over the place. My name is Gordo, and I am joined tonight by Rudude. It's going to be some pretty simple warding at level 1 here, nothing too fancy.
Very traditional level 1 5 points coming out across the board here, and that interesting draft that we talked about from the Crab Wranglers, of course, originating in the top lane with Myopia on this Victor top lane. Shout out to Season 8, Season 9 Voyboy with the QMax Victor that Keen, of course, from Afrika Freaks took into Worlds, and I ended up getting a little bit of a nerf right there as well. So we'll have to see if we get that QMax, see if we get some sort of deviation from the standard Victor mid lane norm that we're used to seeing here. But overall, up against this Ornn, should be a farmed up match. Well, a farming matchup more so than anything else, where there's not too much kill pressure on either side. A Victor doesn't have the damage to kill an Ornn early, and the Ornn shouldn't ever be in a position to kill out this Victor. Grasp of the Undying, noticing 4 feathers and fur, maybe a little bit unuse or a little bit less useful in this lane than he might find in other lanes. Maybe something like the spellbook would have favoured him more so this time round, but we'll have to wait and see if he's able to find those trades, find those engages here with Myopia on the top side.
Yeah, certainly, and want to watch out for if Myopia is able to kind of punish this pick a little bit here. Can get a lot of poke damage out early, and as you said, it is going to be pretty tough for Feathers to be able to proc this Grasp of the Undying in this sort of matchup. So want to see, first of all, if Joker is able to have some influence here, if he's able to come and turn that one around into his favor, and maybe get a gank off in order to really get this Victor rolling along, and how well Feathers can really play on back and kind of play weak side, because that's where he's going to be for quite a bit of this matchup.
With Caitlyn Zyra as a bot lane, you know that that's going to be your strong side. So we're definitely hoping for GRIN Reapers to be able to play to that. Now, Swain down on the bot side can try to punish, but you can see that Guardian Whacker here is doing pretty much the exact same thing, pumping out damage left, right, and center. And when you're tanking the net Piltover Peacemaker combo, it's never going to sit pretty for you. Scorch as well on the Zyra. So there's that added bit of poke in the laning phase, which will just go hand in hand with the Caitlyn Zyra duo bot lane.
Yeah, just kind of keep an eye throughout this game on where these Zyra blooms, or where the buds rather, are going to be spawning here from her own passive. As if she's able to get them closer, she's going to be able to do a lot of damage. But there is a gank coming out from Joker here. It's going to force the flash here out of Travis. Now they're moving on to Guardian, who has also flashed away. That's 2 flashes blown for just the heal and the ghost from the side of EOD Crab Wranglers. They'll take that as a victory, but both of their bot laners are left at incredibly low HP here, so they might have to take a recall sooner than they want, and that was pretty much their gank opportunity blown here. Joker does not have access to a second ghost, so he's not going to be able to get that kind of angle again.
Without the minions pressed under the turret, they deal a substantial amount of damage back to the bot lane here. And you can see that Joker is taking down this crab on the bot side. Travis is going to be able to evade that never move from Swain right there. So overall, yes, they burn the flashes, but if Joker isn't able to come back around and gank for the bot lane in the next 5 minutes, that's not actually going to matter, given the fact that they're just going to be able to constantly pump out the pressure and constantly have this turret under pressure.
Yeah, and with Unbound forced to take a recall, they are going to fall down massively in CS. Already down 13 here, and this entire wave is going to be dying to the turret, so there's going to be no opportunity to make up any of that difference here. Travis is just going to clear away this next wave. Now Myopia maybe getting engaged on a little bit here, going to actually have to flash away after he sees the bully taking away his Krugs up there.
Maybe a little bit preemptive here. The flash to get away from a Sejuani or not your most lethal duo, though definitely something to be feared is the amount of CC they can pump out. So better safe than sorry for Myopia, and what it means is that he's able to stay in lane without having to force his teleport out, and does have his wave in a good position as well, so should be able to continue farming, continue keeping this on in a pressured spot. Obviously being so far up in the lane does make him exposed to Hecarim ganks, but with all of the priority that he's already put down on the bot side, he's going to be finding it more difficult to collate those resources in getting extra priority on the top side, because all of that time that he wasn't farming, you could see Sejuani definitely was. She took away his golems, got herself a lot of experience there from that. Just the experience differential that's going to come from stealing away a single camp. Definitely very impactful, definitely very worthwhile for the Sejuani. And obviously, having no flashes on your bot lane, this isn't ideal, but we already touched on how much of an advantage they're going to have just innately from their duo.
Yeah, for sure here. So want to see if they're able to punish onto the Grin Reaper's bot lane here for those missing flashes in order to really make that gank worth it, as the flashes themselves don't really have any innate value. It's about how you use them, right, Rooted? So now we are going to be seeing as Adam is returning to lane here if they're going to be able to maybe find a way to get some more pressure onto the spot lane and take advantage of those flash differentials, because that's all they really have going for him here. The CS differential is just getting bigger and bigger here, and the item differential also showing itself here. An extra sword and an extra dagger going to be in the inventory of Travis when compared to Unbound.
And we might see these differences really mean something here soon with a Scuttle Crab spawning on the bot side. You can see both junglers are around this bot side area, but quite wisely, Joker recognizing doesn't have priority, isn't going to roam into the river to try and contest that one. Might just peek his head in and see what's going on there, but he's going to be sorely mistaken if he thinks that he's going to be getting his hands on this one.
Yeah, Guardian Waka, you can see, still moving on forward and has been continuously throwing out those deadly spines, both to animate his plants in order to poke out more, and just for damage itself. And that priority in the bot lane is going to net the first dragon of the game over to the side of the Grin Reapers. Are feeling pretty good about that, especially given the jungle matchup that they find themselves in. This Sejuani going to be looking to scale on up, but has managed to net themselves the first objective here. But Guardian Waka has found himself a little bit caught out by a never move, but Unbound was not able to follow up with any extra damage. And so really the damage trade just going to end up going in favor of Grin Reapers again, even though the CC was actually landed by Adam.
Yeah, and it's the fact that the Crab Wranglers bot lane are playing separate here. They're taking two 1v1s and isolated, they don't win them. They want to be focusing, collating all their damage on a single target if at all possible. When you hit that never move onto Zyra, you want it all in here. Unfortunately, Unbound didn't expend the explosive charge in the right direction. Could have probably even jumped in, would have almost certainly been able to get at the very least a reset from the explosive charge to get back out of there with the heal available. Might have been a bit tenuous as to whether or not they've got the kill. But now we're starting to see some limitations of Tristana here. Caitlyn Zyra bot lane don't need to dish out damage to the wave if they can just consistently.
Ooh, that's some
keep
Stranglethorn landed through onto Adam there, really knocking him down very low here.
And this bot lane is just continuing to snowball here. Now Travis is going to push the wave back in, but you saw them just manipulate the wave for 10, 15 seconds, forcing the Tristana Swain out from underneath their turret and immediately put back, immediately a summoner spell is forced. Now, we're at that point where we've expended 5 minutes since the Hecarim gank.
Ooh, a little bit of a dive attempt here coming through from the Bully, going to be landing that Glacial Prison, but no real follow-up available, so he's just going to be able to back on out there. But with the enemy bot lane so low, they just have free reign on this turret here to take as many turret plates as they want. And Joker is just here to kind of watch as the minions go down. He can't even feel comfortable stepping forward to take these minions, even the melee ones, as he's taking so much damage here from the Zyra.
The experience doesn't go to waste, but overall that is very beneficial here for the Grin Reapers. They're going to be looking more than toasty down on this bot side of the map as Travis and Guardian Waka just continue to chain these minions into the turret. And you can even see that this is spilling over now into the jungle. Joker forced off of his Gromp for the time being. Bully is going to leave that one be and going to be able to collect that one for Joker. He's going to be quite happy that he's able to get his own Gromp 9 minutes into the game. Across the rest of the map, there's not really too many disparities, which is the sort of unfortunate situation here if you're looking at it from a Grin Reaper's perspective. The gold lead is about 1400 overall, and the Victor has a nice little CS lead on the top side, about 20 at this stage. Is fairly meaningful for the top laners, and it's sort of a shining light here for Crab Wranglers as Myopia is trying to be the damage source, trying to be that carry for the team. But overall, you can see that there's an even bigger disparity between the two ADCs. An entire set of boots completed for Travis, where Unbound doesn't have his. And now we do see a bit of a setup down on the bot side. But remember, it's been too long and flashes are back up and available.
Yeah, Joker really trying to turn around this bot lane here, making another visit down here to try to relieve some of this pressure and to try to enable Unbound to start farming and getting back into the game here. But as you said, Rudy, the resources not really available here, and it feels like he might even be wasting his time. Might rather see him going up to the top side to try to keep Myopia ahead and at least deny some more resources to Feathers and Fur to make the cross map at least a little bit more even, but instead it's trying to get this bot lane back ahead and not able to find the gank. Eventually just going to decide, hey, I've taken too much time here, I got to get out.
They knew he was there the whole time as well. Zyra plants do give a little bit of vision there, so when he was popping those into the brush, Hecarim was very much spotted and sort of sat there for no good reason at that stage. Didn't want to walk on them to give it away, but unfortunately giving up the ghost anyway. We can see the top side is still just farming its way out, and I like your notion that they could maybe try and make something happen elsewhere and try and have themselves an advantage across the rest of the map to try and make up for how rough this bot lane is going. But I don't think that there's going to be anything they can do that can deal with all of this damage that they're just dishing out onto this mid tier or bot tier 1.
Yeah, and oh, that's going to be the trap hidden behind the turret. Actually going to enable Travis to pick up the first blood there. Unbound stepped on a hidden trap there behind the turret in the bot lane, enabling him to get the headshot off, followed up with all the damage from Guardian Waka, and that is going to be first blood picked up for the GRIN Reapers.
Should be more than first blood, but Bully jumps onto Joker here. Is going to be able to get away with the Onslaught of Shadows.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be a bit of a non-bow there, as Bully going to flash forward there to deny the Encore extension, but is going to land the Glacial Prison, trying to focus on a Joker here, but that little bit of desync going to mean that they aren't going to be able to pick up that kill, but still going to be Joker forced out of the jungle yet again, but now Myopia is down here, try to force onto the Bully, but Bully just going to walk on out of there, just able to shrug off even the ultimate from Victor, as it is just not enough of a threat to him yet.
Not at this stage, the beat drop coming through from Seraphine, doubled up, managing to connect a little route right there. You can see this bot lane now has taken the turret themselves. They're a level up on both sides, and they can't take this fight down here, Crowd Wranglers. You have to try and leave the Caitlyn and Zyra paying the respect of Joker, but even at that case, Zyra, one of the best 2v3 supports in the game here, especially with a lost chapter, would have been able to pump out some fairly meaningful damage should that gank have gone through. Now we get to see what they do with this Caitlyn Zyra. Of course, they're a very potent bot lane, but moving them around the map would be beneficial to them because there are severely more plates across the rest of the map that they can take for themselves. What I'd love to see here, Caitlyn and Zyra move up to the top side, you send Feathers and Fur down to the bot side, continue him in his weak-sided escapade, and you continue to funnel your gold onto the Caitlyn. Get some top lane plates back in her pocket, and then that's even more gold that's going over to Travis here, who at the minute is their superstar carry, and pretty much throughout the game is going to be looking to be that carry because they've got 2 tanks, 2 supports, and this AD carry that should be funneled absolutely all of the gold. Instead, what they do, which is also very, very valid, keep their bot lane down on the bot side because they want this dragon. They're going to be playing to that soul win condition. They know they're going to get a somewhat valuable Drake soul here with Cloud being the second one. So if they get those stacked up early, it means that they're going to be in a position to take themselves a Drake soul around that 25-minute mark.
Yeah, and I'm happy to see that the Crab Wranglers are going for the cross-map play here and instead trying to start on up onto this Rift Herald. But that's pretty face-up here. They do see it on the Speed Shrine, and that means they're actually going to end up having to back it away. It takes them so long to get onto that Herald, but now there's going to be the flash engage here onto Attila. The ultimate not actually going to land on Awaka as he's jumped over the wall, and they're going to be able to pick up that kill there. That was actually all the bot lane duo of the Reapers, rather. No assist gold going elsewhere. So another kill picked up for those two, and now they're going to be moving to take another objective here, and they're getting both all over the map.
Yeah, they're having their cake, they're eating it, they're putting the cherries, the sprinkles, everything they could have ever wanted going on top right here. Travis, in combination with Waka, this bot lane prowess, definitely speaking for itself as they're just roaming around the map, taking exactly what they want, pretty much when they want as well here, rotating them now into the mid lane so that they can try and work on that mid lane tier 1 turret. They're going to be a little bit more hard pressed to find this one, given that there is a bit better wave play from the Orianna, but they send the Orianna down to the bot side, and if they use this Rift Herald, which they definitely are doing, could just be in a position to snowball this game out of control. Mid-tier 1 falling, a bit of a gateway into the enemy team's jungle, and it's not really what they want.
Yeah, now here's going to be the engage attempt coming through from Joker. The unstoppable onslaught does come on through and is going to enable them to pick up onto Waka there. Bully not able to layer down enough CC to keep his support safe. So that is just going to be one kill picked up for the Crab Wranglers. And it looks like that's going to be about it. Myopia is going aggressively here in the top river onto Feathers and Fur, but he's staying outside of the Chaos Storm for most of its duration. And the Victor is now out of mana. So that's going to be the end of that engagement.
Very good from the Crab Wranglers to get themselves a little bit of something back there, taking down the Zyra, who of course has no flash. After having flashed over the wall, that's pretty much the best case situation they could have got for themselves. Maybe they could have picked up a few more kills, but they do get a nice shutdown. It does go on to the Tristana, one of your best targets for that gold injection. So overall, a nice little play in the mid lane. And that is exactly what you're looking for to try and restore some semblance of balance to this game. At the minute, you're 3,000 gold down. Getting those kills back onto the carries that matter, that can soon close up. And we all know Tristana is a notorious late game scaler, and Caitlyn can fall into a bit of a mid game slump as well. So if we start reaching that one sometime soon, there's a chance for these power curves of the AD carries to start matching up against one another, and a strong team fight can come through for the Wranglers.
Certainly can, but what's at risk of happening here for the Crab Wranglers is that Travis just gets so ahead that he slingshots himself right past that mid-game diff, because even though mid-game Caitlyn might be a little bit worse than other mid-game AD carries, when Caitlyn's in mid-game while Tristana's still in early game, that dip really doesn't present itself to a significant degree at all. So they need to get their AD carry caught back up a little bit here, not be so substantially down in items if they actually want to try to punish this Caitlyn before it gets to be later in the game.
Myopia feeling the force of this Caitlyn right now on the top side. That pill over Peacemaker hits. You can imagine the headshot coming on through right there, acing the hole as well expended. Forces Myopia off the turret. They don't get the kill, but what they want is this turret. They're going to be able to push one more wave in. Should be able to pick that one up for themselves. Looks like Crab Wranglers aren't going to be giving this one up easily. They do expend the rotation of mid support and jungle up to this top side, and at the minute, the Caitlyn's that are a bot lane are fairly isolated here. No support from the squad, but recognizing that you can see Travis and Waka, they do back away, and they're not going to give them the luxury, at least to fight.
Here, though, lands, and that's going to enable him to go forward onto Waka, and they are able to pick up onto him here. Now it's up to Travis to try to kite this one out, going to be able to do so on the back of the Stranglethorns, and now there's going to be the Glacial Prison going to land there onto Joker, but not going to be able to be followed up on. Now it's up to Adam, who's getting continuously autoed by this Sejuani, going to get stunned up, but Riz and Travis just does not feel safe walking on up too far here, does not want to get punished by these other champions, but they don't have ultimates anymore, so he is going to be able to push up at least a little bit. Now here comes the Encore. It's going to force a flash out of Attila. Now flash out of Adam going to come through as well, but it does look like those members of the Crab Wranglers going to be able to escape.
Well, I said that they're not going to give them the luxury of a fight, and instead they step up, recognizing they're all there, and they give them the fight anyway. It's another kill onto the Zyra without the flash ready and available that goes this time into the hands of Joker. So the Hecarim now getting in a piece of the action for the side of Crab Wranglers. Drake spawning in 30 seconds means that the priority once again shifted down to this bot side of the map. And you can see Caitlyn working towards her Stormrazor is going to be the one moving out onto the map down towards this bot side as well, trying to put the GRIN Reapers at Soul Point. Gold disparity, only 2,000 gold here. This is a disparity that you can fight with. You can try and take a fight at this situation. You just need to be careful and meticulous with how you approach it.
You certainly do there, and want to give a quick shout out to my boy Swain there in that last engagement. The Vision of Empire slow actually going to be what ends up setting up that play, and what gets Guardian Waka into a vulnerable enough position for Joker to go in for the engage there. That's really some of the hidden power in this support Swain, is that really long range, really long duration slow that if you're able to land on somebody unsuspecting or able to cut off a choke point with, can have huge implications for future fights.
It's quite literally a zoning ability as well. You know, we see memes of zoning Fizz Sharks, zoning ultis left, right, and center, but having to traverse your way all the way around that Vision of Empire can just pull you back into the range of your initial engage points. So Vision of Empire, a very temperamental cooldown that can have very limited effects, but can also turn the fight on a dime right there. And that's pretty much what happens. You see it case in point. Zyra tries to navigate her way around it, just steps on the slow and does get caught out. So I quite like the point, the thesis that you bring up. Swain definitely having his engage potential from a much larger range than you'd maybe anticipate.
Yeah, for certain. Although do have to take a little bit of criticism with the positives there, as Adam is going to be maxing out onto that E, looking for lower cooldowns and constant fishing there onto the Never Move, but that's not going to give access to very much damage compared to other ability maxes. It isn't going to mean his Q is going to come through last, and it also is not going to be a direct result, but he's going to end up picked off in mid lane as well, and picked up by Travis there. Is another kill going to be funneled over onto that Caitlyn is working on towards her first attack speed item, and is just continuing to be a huge force across this map here. About a 2k gold lead going to be in the pockets of the GRIN Reapers here, and they're showing no signs of stopping.
And something worth noting here, back to your Swain point, maxing E doesn't actually give you lower cooldown, so you definitely don't want to be maxing that one on Swain support. This is one of those cases of reading tooltips will get you very far, but Joker is looking to get a little bit further. The bully probably going to be fine here.
Yeah, probably going to be able to disengage here, but Joker's just going farther on in. Now he's going to end up caught out and picked off by a headshot from Travis. Probably not the direction you wanted to onslaught of Shadows in, and that's going to be another kill picked up for the side of the GRIN Reapers. Also, yeah, and that's Swainy. I knew it wasn't great to max E. I didn't know you got no cooldown reduction out of it. So yeah, that's certainly going to not be the look you want to see on this Swain support pick. Definitely not for me, who wants to see it succeed.
Meanwhile, the Baron has been started with no jungler on the board. This should be fairly easy for the GRIN Reapers. Caitlyn pumping out damage left, right, and center, and just a matter of time before this one falls, all before the contest comes through. They do have Victor, they do have Swain. Good AoE damage can come through.
Oh yeah, the engage with the Arctic Assault going to come through from the bully, but he's just going to get bursted right on down off of that Chaos Storm, and it looks like there aren't going to be other kills able to be picked up here. The Encore was not able to do enough to pick off any targets, and now with the rest being zoned away, that's going to force them off of this Baron here. Bully being down means they do not have access to the Smite anymore. So it's just going to be a bit of a disengage coming through from the GRIN Reapers. They're substantially ahead in this game, but they have not really been able to find a big back-breaking team fight yet.
No, they could have very easily gone for that Baron. They got it down to about 2k. They just weren't. They were cognizant of a random steal coming through from Victor potentially. But when you have Smite, you just have to have faith in your jungler a little bit here. With no jungler on the enemy team here, we know Joker was dead. There was no Smite contest. There was no inherent advantage going over to the Crab Wranglers. So the fact that GRIN Reapers don't opt into that one suggests a little bit of caution, suggests a little bit maybe of inexperience. They could have very easily picked that one up and didn't even have to take the fight after the matter. They could have tried to disengage from it with just 2k left. The time that takes to burn through, definitely not very long at all.
Yeah, certainly, but definitely a little bit of cognition from GRIN Reapers, knowing that they should be able to scale pretty effectively this game. They do already have 3 dragons in their pocket, which are soon going to be moving on up to 4, you would assume. And with these Mountain Drakes and potential Mountain Soul, especially with these double tanks that they've drafted for themselves, they should have quite a unimposable front line for as we go deeper into this game, and just hoping that they'll be able to front-to-back team fight in a pretty straightforward manner and be able to take the game that way. But as you said, maybe a little bit of an abundance of caution on that last Baron there. But now they're just going to be setting on up for this Dragon coming up in about 60 seconds.
Important item thresholds that you might want to mention are going to be Unbound, having picked up that last Whisper. Isn't yet an LDR, which they would have liked. Joker searching for an engage isn't going to be able to find it and takes one heck of a headshot as well, just for good measure. We do also have Liandry's Anguish picked up already for Myopia. He's been farming very well. On this top side, Victor is a bit of a threat here. If you're looking at anybody to be carrying these team fights for the Crab Wranglers, the Victor is your leading man, the sort of star that we're looking at to try and take these fights right here. Without the fully completed, I say that, look back at his inventory, has picked up the Lich Bane, teleports back into the fight there, vying for this positioning. They want to try and take this fight here and don't want to be giving over river control too easily. Orianna doesn't have yet completed her Liandry's though, so the damage from that one going to be a little bit unfounded, going to be relying exclusively on Shockwave, but that's a catch.
That's going to be a pull on in onto Guardian there, who is now getting chased onto by Joker, but they've got so much chain CC on top of him that they're able to take down the horse before he's able to trade back at all. Now Adam is in demon form here, is going to be coming across, but that's a big flank coming through from Feathers and Fur, going to throw out the Cold Forge God. Not quite going to knock up on any key targets there, but it just means that they're able to continue moving on forward with the help of their Orin. That's Unbound, jumping on over the wall, trying to go for Travis here, but he's going to survive with just a sliver of HP. Now it's up to Myopia, as we said, the one we're looking at to carry these fights, but but he's already lost 2 teammates, and that means he's going to have to back on away, and that's going to be looking like Dragon Soul likely to be picked up here for the Grin Reapers, but they don't want to give it up that easy. That's going to be Seraphine pulled on in. Billy is going to end up falling down here to Myopia, but that is Soul picked on up, and now they're willing to take the fight. They jump on in with the Arctic Assault, and they're able to take down Myopia, and with that, it's going to be Adam left all alone and needing to run on back to base. A big fight win and a Soul pickup for the Grin Reapers.
And remember what I said in draft, Gordo, the spacing is going to be the most important thing in these team fights. Hecarim jumps into the backline, has no support, gets charmed, and dies here. It means that the 4v5 that comes through afterwards is not easy at all for the Crab Wranglers. They're going to be the ones left unchecked, and unfortunately they lose the Mountain Soul themselves. So it is going to mean that they're now down a very significant margin. That's a very tangible asset that is going to be in the hands of the Grin Reapers. They can use this to facilitate a Baron take. They can use this to just be absolutely massive in their pushes, in having that big front line that you'd already talked about here. It makes the job of Unbound and Joker that much more difficult because they're not only trying to navigate getting past this front line, but they also have to try and get onto a backline who now have a very nice shield for themselves as well.
Yeah, and to go to a caster classic at this point, the gold lead isn't quite what it appears to be either. It's actually more substantially in the favor of the Grin Reapers as these Ornn items have started to come on through. The Forgefire Crest has been picked up there for Feathers and Fur, and he has upgraded Caitlyn's Kraken Slayer to the Wormfallen Sacrifice as well. With these extra items now being picked on up here from those Ornn levels, that's going to be even more stats just holding in the pockets of the Grin Reapers.
And now they're going to be starting up that Baron as well here. Very much an easy task for them to tank it. Whether or not they can secure it safely going to be another matter. You can see them treading very carefully. Now they engage in.
Yeah, the Glacial Prison going to come through onto Myopia, but they aren't able to go through the rest of the way, but they don't even need to, as there's just enough AoE damage coming on through that are going to be able to pick him up. The Zyra is the first to fall here, but that is not the primary carry that you want to focus in on to. It means that the rest of the fight is going to be taken front to back as expected. A flash forward from Travis is going to enable them to pick up onto Unbound, and now in a 3-for-1 engagement is going to be the Grin Reapers taking the win yet again, and now looking to maybe move on to this Baron.
They should be able to pick this one up. Joker doesn't have Flash, remember, took Ghost this game, and also no Onslaught of Shadows means getting into the pit is going to be much more difficult than you might imagine. No trap lines from Travis, so it could be a little bit easier than he'd anticipated, but trying to find vision, trying to find any way across to know how much it's going to be at should be a little bit more difficult. The Ori Ball is going to give vision of the pit, and now Joker needs to pick his time wisely.
Yeah, that is not going to be wisely enough, as he is going to get snared up there by the side of the Seraphine, and that is going to force him to just Onslaught right on out of there, or Ghost, rather, right on out of there, as that is going to be the Bully picking up the Baron for his team, as now another major objective going to fall into the pockets of the Grin Reapers. They're going to be able to just reset up here, and now just look to start up their siege with this newfound Baron buff.
Not going to be difficult at all for the Grin Reapers. They've got themselves pretty much everything they could have ever wanted right now, and you talked about intangibles from the gold lead coming out. The gold lead, as you mentioned, isn't quite what it seems with the Ornn items. Also with that Mountain Soul as well, there's a load of hidden buffs from the statistics, but also the very real health bar buff that you can see. The Mountain Shield giving about, for the squishy members, about a 300-400 gold value in terms of the health here, and then also for those tanks who get a little bit more from the Mountain Soul Shield, going to be buffed up to about 500, and that across all of your team gives you another sort of 2,000 gold in the advantage that you just can't make up at this point here. So going to be difficult across the rest of this game if the Crab Wranglers are going to be looking for it, and they're going to need to find the optimal fight. It's going to require Unbound jumping into the backline, assassinating somebody and not dying, but they're not even getting a chance.
The Glacial Prison going right on through onto Adam, followed up with the Encore, and they're going to be able to pick him up as a result. It's actually a triple kill. It's going to be able to be picked up by Waka. Just so much AoE damage from the Stranglethorns and the plants, going to enable him to take out 2 other targets as well. And that's going to be with a 3-for-0 fight again. Going to be the Grin Reapers pushing on into the base. They're going to take an inhibitor here, and they could even fish for more because they got about 15 seconds here of a 5v2 on the map. Feathers and Fur is splitting over in the side lane there, able to take up some turrets for himself, but can maybe even look to join up with his teammates and move on to the Nexus as well. But Guardian Waka is going to be standing here to empower on up those minions to hit onto the Nexus, and meanwhile they're going to take up a second inhibitor for themselves.
Yeah, he's empowering the minions to hit the Nexus turrets, but he's also empowering himself to will into the health pool of Unbound right there. Takes him down to about 70% HP off of a single basic ability combination right here. I identified Travis as the sort of carry that you want to be assassinating here. Guardian Whacker on the Zyra has 2 completed items. He's about the same pace as Attila, and at this point, Liandry's and Demonic are doing much more for you than a Seraph's and a Zhonya's are. The Zhonya's much more safe in terms of its passive and how much it wants to be providing to you, where you can just see its all-out aggression from the Syra items right here, which is sort of making up for a little bit their supportive mid lane role. It's sort of a new age strategy we've got with Seraphine, where you funnel her all of the gold so she gets all of these buffs very nicely. But
Ooh, Adam stepping up a little bit too far there, going to find himself engaged on by the bully in the encore. Not quite going to land onto him, but going to land onto Attila and force a flash out of him. Now Joker is standing there for lining for his team, but not going to be able to pick up onto anybody. Actually going to end up taking down Billy Willard, and now it is up to Travis to try to carry up this fight. He's taken down a little bit low, but he's able to chunk through everybody that he needs to, and now it's only Unbound left alive. They're going to move forward onto him. It's Guardian Waka doing so much damage here on this Zyra, and that is going to enable them to finish off the ace. Billy Willard, the only one going down at the end of the day, and that means the remaining 4 members are going to be able to push on through and look to end this game 1.
Will be the first game of our best of 3 going over to the GRIN Reapers fairly handily, you have to say, as well, and all off of the back of Guardian Waka and Travis right here down on the bot side. The Caitlyn Zyra lane did exactly what it was supposed to do, moving them around the map, getting them all of those objectives is going to net them game number 1.
And you can't call it anything else but textbook, really, as you see Grin Reapers really showing us why they are at the top of their group right now. Coming up into this week at a 4-0 record, they play through their bot lane, and they play it pretty much as textbook as you could expect to. They pick the strong winning bot lane, they win early on, they survive the ganks, they're able to take the turret pretty early on, and then they're able to just rotate on up to top lane, take that turret as well, get Rift Herald, rotate mid lane, get mid lane, and they're just able to dominate the entire game that way. They get such a substantial gold lead in the pocket of their Caitlyn, and such a substantial gold trough into Unbound, they really had no ways of winning out these fights.
The gold trough was exactly what was putting them at that bad position. You're quite right. The lack of sort of cohesion from Unbound and Atom as well down on the bot side did hurt them. We saw multiple times where connecting on a never move on to one target and then jumping into a different target, or not jumping in at all, really. They didn't play to how their bot lane wanted to do it, and it is difficult. Let's not get it mistaken. Playing into Caitlyn Zyra is a lane that you don't win, just straight up. It's very difficult to find an advantage there at all. But it's definitely a compliment more so to the Grin Reapers that they were able to transition that into map-wide domination. They just single-handedly took one advantage in bot side and ran across it with the rest of the game.
Yeah, now maybe want to see how the side of the Crab Wranglers want to react to this coming on into the Draft 4 game 2. They put a lot of priority on this Tristana that was locked in their first rotation here, and it just ends up counterpicked away by the Caitlyn. And with that powerful duo that we've been talking about so much this entire game, they're able to take the win for themselves. So see how they're going to react in the next draft here. We're going to need to get on into it. So we're going to take a short break here to get into that draft, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Take a moment right here, feeling like it's out gear. Driving towards the sun with a rose and a gun. Feel the wind in my hair, going nowhere I swear. Like an outlaw on the run, dangerous but it's so fun. Running, running, no. Hold on, don't let go. Running, running, no. Keep running. Running low, keep running. I'm running low, keep running. Like an outlaw on the run. Dangerous but it's so fun.
Welcome back, everybody, to
Running low, keep
Five
running.
of the
I'm
Rampage
running
Premade
low,
League.
keep
We've got
running.
game 2 here between the EOD Crab Wranglers and the GRIN Reapers. We saw GRIN Reapers take a pretty convincing game 1 there, and now looking to see if the Crab Wranglers can bounce back in game 2. My name is Gordo, and I am joined tonight by Rudude. Rudude, looks like pretty similar picks and bans thus far, but it's going to be that key Caitlyn ban coming through from the Crab Wranglers.
Yeah, they either don't have an answer or just don't want to try and go up against it here, to be honest. They've still got this, well, they now themselves have the B1 potential, and if they want to take Seraphine, if they want to take Hecarim, they're more than entitled to do so here. We have both of the sort of power pick AD carries right now in Tristana and Kai'Sa still on the table as well, so many forms of draft can start to come out right here. Looks as though with the hover, we are going to see the Seraphine at least taken away from the GRIN Reapers, so that obnoxious healing and constant source of wave clear, poke, harass coming on out is no longer going to be available to the GRIN Reapers. And as a trade, they are going to take that Hecarim here. They're going to pick themselves up the stable jungler this time round, and we are sort of seeing a bit of a do-si-do in the draft, a bit of a 1-2 switcheroo here coming on out. We'll have to see how they continue this one. Maybe they pick something to go into the mid lane, or they just take themselves one of those 2 big AD carries.
Yeah, I would expect to see an AD or support here, and that is going to be the Jinx lock-in coming through from the GRIN Reapers. Just what they're going to value as the next best choice here. Still going to be that Tristana available for the Crab Wranglers. They put a lot of value on that in the last draft, so might expect to see it come on through as well. Something that went through the entire draft unanswered last game was the Rel, so would be curious to see if these teams do value that champion enough to be able to go for that hard engage opportunity that has been taking the whole world by storm as of late. But instead, they're going to be locking in this Olaf here with their B2 pick. Now have the opportunity to go for one more here, either round on out their bot lane with the Tristana. Would expect it to be banned away among others here if they don't go for it, or could go for an early solo lane.
With the Olaf as an answer in the early game here, at the very least, they're looking to sort of match fire with fire. You know, Olaf typically this very early game oriented jungler that you're looking to try and find some dominance with. And we knew that in game number 1, the GRIN Reapers were very able to find themselves early successes in and around those objectives. You know, the Dragons went in their favor very handily. So it looks like they're trying to answer that a little bit here, the Wranglers. They're trying to find themselves maybe not priority out of the bot lane, but at the very least priority out of the jungle, so that the Olaf can command the river, command how the teams play out their games, and maybe try and get some advantages in that respect.
Yeah, it's actually going to be the Zillion lock-in coming through here from the GRIN Reapers. Very potentially apt support here, and you know what? I know it sounds like I'm lying here, Rudude, but that's my other pick this season. I mean, we're going through all these weird support picks that I thought only I played, but it turns out that these 2 teams are going to be busting them out as well. The Zillion support does have a pretty high win rate right now, one of the higher win rate supports as far as solo duo goes. Could also be potentially flexed in the mid. We've seen the likes of Bjergsen go for that for quite a long time and has quite a storied history on it. So definitely has some flex potential there as well. And of course, going to need to focus on that Chrono Shift ultimate, which is going to be keeping people alive.
And I think that you're hitting the nail on the head here with the Zillion mid lane pickup right here. Notorious matchup, or notorious mid lane duo, the Hecarim and the Zillion, of course, with Hecarim giving movement speed, and of course with the or with the Hecarim scaling off movement speed, the Zilean providing movement speed, the two champions in a mid-jungle duo go hand in hand. So would anticipate that it's going to be a mid lane pick. It's very neutralizing as well. It makes what the Crab Wranglers mid lane with Wave Clear want to achieve very difficult, because Zilean just matches that very easily himself. So we're looking at a sort of an answer, and if Wranglers have identified they want to neutralize mid lane, Zilean is just another pick that does exactly that itself.
Yeah, it's going to be another Ornn coming through from the Grin Reapers here. They really do want to cement themselves as the scaling composition here, and the Jinx was already kind of pushing them in that direction, and the Zilean and the Ornn really going to lock that one in as they are facing off against an Olaf composition, which is going to be by nature a little bit more early game centric, trying to get onto some of those early dragons. So now we're going to see what the solo lane picks are going to be here, or if they want their Seraphine to be one of those solo lane picks. The Shen going to come through as the counter pick to the Ornn. Now we're going to see what mid lane / support ends up being.
Yeah. Choices are endless, really, for the Grin Reapers here. I'm expecting them to pick something to go into that support role. You know, I mean, the Jinx can start snowballing. We're in this new age where Hail of Blades is being taken by a lot of AD carries here, and particularly here into a Seraphine bot lane. Things like the Blitzcrank, like the Thresh, like those engage style supports start to speak to you as a potential avenue for success here. We saw it in game number 1 that playing through bot was the Grin Reaper's strategy. If they do it again in game number 2 here, they have the opportunity to pick something very aggressive, very adept at getting leads, to maybe go for that. And instead, they opt into something a little bit different. They are going to put what looks to be the Zilean down in the bot lane. There's, of course, the opportunity for Vigor to be that supportive carry, but we're not expecting that, and definitely looking to see a Jinx Zilean bot lane come out instead.
Yeah, don't feel great taking the Zilean mid up against the Diana. I can understand that, as it's something that might struggle a little bit there. The Vigor not going to be the happiest matchup either, but at the very least can create some distance for itself using that event horizon. But these B4 and B5 picks coming through from the side of the Crab Wranglers, definitely not going to be some of the best options into Zilean. Generally, you don't want to go for some of those higher dive based compositions up against this champion, because he's just going to res up whoever you dive onto, and odds are you don't have enough resources to really kind of repeat that process all over again and try to melt through a second target. The Vigor similarly going to provide a lot of disengaged services there for the rest of his team. They're going to be able to layer down that event horizon and maybe even look to split up some of the members of the Crab Wranglers. So they're going to have a lot of onus execution onto them here, using this Sivir and this Olaf to find interesting angles where they don't end up punished by this.
And once again, right, spacing becomes a bit of a key feature here. We've got Hecarim and Ornn that are going to be those two frontline divers, but this time the Crab Wranglers, they've got themselves a more cohesive diving composition. Diana and Olaf want to be in that backline. This time they have the Shen over the top, they have Sivir enabling them to get into that backline as well. There are plenty of tools here for the Crab Wranglers to make something better come out of their team composition, to have more of an advantage, to make their comp flow and gel a little bit nicely as a 5-man stack. But of course, we're looking at it, they're going in and they're trying to fight up against Ornn, Zilean and Vigor, 2-3 champions that all have insane amounts of either disengage or sort of zoning potential, with trying to go through Event Horizon, go through double bombs, go through Ornhorn. Will be very difficult for Crab Wranglers to navigate that one effectively, at least in the case of the Diana and the Shen, right? Obviously, you have to take the Olaf with a pinch of salt because he can be immune to those CC tools. But overall, sort of how the Grin Reapers are going to be playing this should be a little bit on the back foot, which is a bit of a departure from what Hecarim usually wants to be doing. But you can try to play Hecarim in a more peel-oriented style, just with picking up that Turbo Chem tank, picking up those Lucidity boots, and becoming the more tanky member for the team, as opposed to just being the outright diver.
Yeah, certainly there. And this Ornn for the side of Grin Reapers, much in the same way it did in the first game, really going to cement them as this hard scaling composition that focuses in on these team fights. After he takes over to that level 13 and starts doling on out those ornaments to his team, it's just going to be so much free gold value as this is going to accelerate them even farther. So once again, it's going to be up to the side of the Crab Wranglers to make something happen on earlier. They have an even better jungler to do it now in this Olaf. They're going to be able to force a lot of plays early on and should be able to get control around that spot lane dragons early on, especially with this bot lane they've picked for themselves. But just going to have to see if they're able to execute.
With all the priority that you're hoping comes out of a Sivir lane, you would want to try and find these early game objectives. And of course, we touched on the Olaf being fairly decent into the Hecarim in the early game to maybe make that happen more so than potentially with a weaker jungler, right? Sivir Seraphine should be a fairly safe bot lane and should be something that you can try and play to quite handily, quite effectively. The rest of the map, Shen into the Ornn, you'd say slightly Shen favored here with the pass-through damage of the Spirit Blade, as well as some of the just innate dueling power that comes from Shen. You're hoping that gives him a little bit of leeway on the top side. And Diana into Vigor, if that event horizon ever goes down, Diana has a free window into just dishing out absolute heaps of damage onto the Vigor.
Yeah, definitely going to be up to the side of the Grin Reapers. They want to not bunch up a little bit too much here, especially against this pick like the Diana. Just going to really be punishing, along with being able to move them all inward for something like a Shen taunt or some kind of follow-up like an encore from the Seraphine. So you're going to want to keep themselves a little bit split away and try to force the Crab Wranglers to group up together as well if they're able to get some of these engages off with their Ornn, with their Hecarim, and the AoE damage that they're able to provide.
Of course, with that sort of expectation in hand, we're still looking across and we're looking to see if Grin Reapers can replicate their successes from game one. And for me, I feel like Jinx Zilean much less imposing than a Caitlyn Zyra, and now I'm very curious to see where Grin Reapers generate their advantages from. We do have Hecarim to be that early game ganker still, but he's up against an Olaf, a very strong early game ganker himself, early game jungler in general, that we already touched on. We're expecting slightly more losing lanes here coming on out of the Grin Reapers themselves. So maybe this is going to be a different look for them. It's going to be a sit back and relax style of game and wait for your Jinx and your Vigor to be these absolutely unleashed late game AD carries, late game potent damage dealers, especially with Zilean on the back of them as well. The fact that you're basically going to be having a 6v5 in the late game, always going to be very useful.
Yeah, they were rocking the best of both worlds in game one, where they were able to have this super dominant bot lane and also have the Ornn to guarantee that they would be the scaling composition and they could scale up with their Sejuani Ornn front line and guarantee that they'd be able to win fights late game as well. Not going to be the same situation here for the Grin Reapers. They are going to be a little bit of a disadvantage in the laning phase, as some of these hyper carries need to take some time to scale up. So going to need to see if they're able to kind of play it a little bit easier and play it on the back foot as they start off and start to turn it on up later on once they've hit some of these key item thresholds and once they feel that they're able to actually take these fights and win them. We're going to need to load up into the game in order to see that, but do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back after a brief intermission. Welcome back, everybody, to the Risen Rampage Premade League Week 5 matchup here between the EOD Crab Wranglers on the blue side and the GRIN Reapers here on the red. My name is Gordo, and I am joined tonight by Rudude as we are watching to see if Crab Wranglers might be able to make a bit of a comeback here after a disappointing loss here in Game 1.
And that was at the hands of Travis and Guardian Walker down on the bot side. Now, this time round, we're expecting the game to look a little bit different in the way it plays out, most notably, but hopefully in terms of who's picking up these early game leads. This time round, Travis and Guardian were just able to pummel Unbound and Atom. There's no other way of putting it. They picked Caitlyn Zyra, they obliterated them down on the bot side. Jinx and Zillion don't have that same priority, especially Jinx with Conqueror. She's going to be waiting till the late game, waiting for the team fights before she becomes a monster and becomes this sort of ever-present threat that you need to be thinking about. So we're looking to see a bit of a change of pace. This game will play out differently. How differently remains to be seen, and how you're looking to see the sort of teams play out their compositions and who's finding the advantages earlier on is still something that is all up in the air. But at the very least, Crab Wranglers won't have themselves this hemorrhaging bot lane from the very get-go.
Yeah. It is interesting here that Guardian Waka ruining at least a little bit aggressively. Going to be taking the Airy here on the Zillion for a little bit of extra shielding and a little bit of extra poke damage. The standard that you tend to expect is going to be the Guardian, very similar to what Adam is taking here. But he feels that he's going to be able to land some skills, get some bonus damage out, and be taking these trades.
And the most notable sort of difference that you'll find with these rune choices coming out is that Waka doesn't have Resolve at all. So he doesn't have those tanky, sustain runes coming on through. And taking those shorter trades probably going to cost him. You saw it right there when the Seraphine and the Zillion were just trading auto attacks, trading out on a couple of spells. That Waka, you can see, he's taking a fair amount of poke right here. And Atom, of course, going to be able to sustain up a little bit more so once the level 3 comes through. Once we've got access to all 3 of our Seraphine abilities, that surround sound going to be more than capable of pumping out decent amounts of healing in the laning phase at the very least. So all of these little things could add up, and you know, that departure from game 1 to game 2 and the differences of damage and differences of champions could really start to stack up.
Yeah, and you can see that Time in a Bottle passive tried to get procced there a little bit ago, and it resulted in Waka taking a little bit more damage than he might have hoped, but that's going to be a nice zap landed through onto Adam and is going to result in quite a bit of poke damage being passed over his way. Feathers and Fur also getting poked out quite a bit up in that top lane. We saw a taunt followed by Spirit Blade pass through trade coming through from Myopia there, and he's finding a little bit of openings there as well. We can see Time in a Bottle going to be used once again there, as now Travis and Waka are going to be the first to level 3. They aren't going to go for anything aggressive off of it.
Yeah, it did manage to get that one going right here. We do see the generic Shen trade of Torn into those 3 auto attacks coming on through right there, and that's going to be a stun landing bot lane. Guardian Waka goes very low.
Yeah, but now is going to be using the heal to keep up on health a little bit there, and it has been Guardian Waka taking out incredibly low. Very important dodge on the boomerang throw there, going to enable Waka to stay on alive. Otherwise, would have had to at least be the heal blown from Travis. That's going to be a bit of a summoner advantage in favor of the GRIN Reapers down there, even though they don't have the health bars to show it. They are still going to be up in those summoners, and now we are going to see Ronan having subbed in after game 1. Going to be dodging out on some abilities there, not going to find himself stunned there by the event horizon.
Now, importantly, pushing in that wave, putting the priority down onto Waka does mean that Joker has access to priority from his bot lane, means that he's got access to what is now a double crabbing of the Hecarim here. So significant lead in the early game going to be going into that Hecarim, or into that Olaf's pocket rather, and the Hecarim will be a little bit disadvantaged in terms of the farm that he's able to be picking up. The gold that he generates before his first recall here, the benefit supposedly to getting double crabbed is that you get a reset early, you get out onto the map faster, and you're able to get a gank going. But if you don't find a gank immediately off the bat, then when the enemy jungler comes back out to play and they're starting to match you as well, it looks a little bit more rough. And I hope you're on the top side, still just continuing with these Shen trades.
Yeah, but actually taking a little bit more than he dishes out on that last one there, ending up knocked up by that searing charge from the Ornn. And Rudude, I'm not 100% sure that this occurred, but I'm pretty sure it did, so I'm going to mention it on broadcast. Think the bully just lost his Gromp to Seraphine a couple seconds ago. I think he came over the wall and stole that one away at very low HP totals, and that's going to set the bully even farther behind. The Gromp is buffed in its value on this patch and is a lot more comparable to Krugs now in terms of what it presents for a jungler.
Fortunately, Gordo, we can confirm that that didn't happen. Seraphine has 2 CS, Camps give 4. So,
I'm nuts then. I don't know. I could have sworn I didn't see that Hecarim CS totals went up, but you know, you present quite a good argument there, and that is going to be the case.
and a word from producer behind the scenes, Epic Cloud. Thank you very much. It was actually Red Buff that secured it in favor of the Hecarim. So there we go. Be that as it may, it's going to be the Hecarim at least keeping somewhat pace with the Olaf. You can see the CS leads coming through in this, well, actually top side really the only place picking up the CS lead. And whilst we saw maybe a bit of a rough trade, we're expecting the CS in the top lane to be matching up with what we see up there. Myopia, of course, in game 1 had himself a nice lead as well. Of course, had a very different laning experience with the Victor into the Ornn, and that's a quick double bomb.
Yeah, and now it's going to be a lot of damage coming on through, and that is going to force the Shen ultimate to come on through. Stand United does come through for Myopia, and he goes for the flash taunt and is able to land it onto Travis, going to force the flash out of him as well, although he is exhausted, so can't run away as quickly as he would like to. And now Adam actually getting turned around on off the back of the zap. He's going to be forced to flash as well, and with Flash's bone on both sides, does not look like it's actually going to be a kill picked up there.
So a lot of expenditure once again down on the bot side, and honestly, in favor of the bot lane for GRIN Reapers here. There's 3 flashes expended, or 3 summoner spells expended by either bot lane, Guardian keeping his flash where Unbound keeps theirs. So a slight benefit, I suppose, ADC flash over Zillion flash, you would say, is more impactful for EOD. But the important part is that Shen spent so much time down on that bot side. That CS lead has completely closed. There's now an experience gap between these 2 top laners as well. Feathers and Fur gets himself a free reset. He's going to be able to go back, pick all of those resources. Health, mana, going to be fully topped off. Ornn doesn't necessarily need to go back to base to buy items, but he's going to be very grateful that he's been able to pick up those resources all the same.
Yeah, and that's going to be Joker picking up the first dragon of the game for himself there. Bully not going to be able to steal that one away, although is trying to aggress here onto the Scuttler, going to be able to pick that one up, but at what cost here is he's going to find himself rooted on up and slowed by the Olaf, jumps on away, has the bomb on his head, but it's from his own teammate, so he's not going to take any damage from it at all, as now Ronan is pushed up pretty far here, going to find himself in the event horizon, but is going to be able to just kind of pace back and forth there for a second or two until it's time to walk on out of there. No kills going to be picked up for the side of the Crab Wranglers there. Now here comes the call. The Forge God actually is Billy Willard is no mana and finds himself in the middle of 4 people. He's likely going to be picked up here. He's going to try to flash away, but gets sucked back in by the Diana. That's going to be first blood picked up for the Sivir here as Diana is traded back onto, but now Joker is just rampaging on through this fight. He's able to pick up another kill for himself, and it's going to force even further flashes as Guardian Waka has to blow his as well. It's going to be a 2-for-1 trade that all goes in favor of the Crab Wranglers.
Maybe 400 HP combined between the GRIN Reapers members that limp away from that fight. Talked about the fact that the Shen was going to be back level with the Ornn now, having Ornn expended that TP and got a very bad trade off the back of it. The Shen now going to be back ahead in that topside matchup, and a 3-man Moonfall coming through from Ronin, definitely setting up the Crab Wranglers for a little bit of success here. This is exactly what we were anticipating, more early game dominance coming out from Crab Wranglers in this game, and you can see 2-level disparity between those top laners. The Diana ahead in experience over the Vigar as well. And if the Diana's left unchecked here, she might be able to continue chaining these kills into Vigar.
Yeah, Myopia once again just finding some more taunt trades onto Feathers here, but Feathers getting to the point here where he has enough damage in the Ornn kit in general that he's able to trade back pretty effectively, get a grasp proc of his own, so not finding himself bullied off too much. That is a substantial CS lead that Myopia has built for himself in the top lane, standing at about 19 CS up here. Now we're going to see if the bully wants to path on up here and look for maybe a bit of a gank. Coming on up, standing in the bottom river, trying to bait forward is Feathers and Fur, but it looks like Myopia maybe a little bit too aware here, and Bully's just going to clear on away the ward that's allowing him to do so.
With no call, the Forge God trying to fully take down the Shen. Never going to be too easy. Spirit's Refuge can immune the devastating charge, so it makes it very difficult with those cooldowns available to try and find any sort of success on a Shen gank on the top side here for this duo. So recognizing that, backing off and playing it a little bit safer here, not wasting your time, always worthwhile. Ronan, something I noticed in that little fight around the jungle, very hesitant to use the Moonfall, and right there was the perfect example. You got the engage you wanted. Something that mid laners around this elo, of course, being a gold league here, is they're not willing to use their ultis unless they're 100% certain it's going to amount in a kill. But now we've got a fight on the top side to talk about.
Yeah, I hope he get engaged on there with the call of the Forge God, but he's going to have the backup of his jungler, and that means it is time for the Grin Reapers to just get on out of dodge as this Joker brings on through so much damage. He's going to be able to pick up at least one kill here on the Feathers and Fur, and now maybe wants to go for more, but is taking a few too much damage from that turret and is going to back on off. And that is going to be another 1-for-0 trade in favor of the Crab Wranglers up in that top lane.
So our advantage is starting to peter over. Here goes the mid fight.
Yeah, that is going to be the Moonfall coming on through. Billy Willard is going to be able to get the stun off of his E, but it is not going to be enough to keep him alive. That is going to be Ronan picking up a solo kill. As we said, dude, Crab Wranglers are starting to run away with this game from their individual lane advantages that they've drafted for themselves. And that's what they need to do in this team composition. They want to be able to develop a substantial lead before Feathers and Furry starts bringing through a lot more damage.
Before they start pulling through those tank stats and before Travis and Billy Willard start pumping out damage in the later stages here, we can see down in the CS leads in the bot side that Travis is starting to etch his way back into this bot-sided matchup, of course, with Sivir picking up a kill and an assist in the previous fight. She is going to be a little bit ahead in gold. But just the way that these guys are playing the laning phase, you can see that Zillion Jinx has the priority right here, and with the level lead over the supports and trying to find some sort of fight here. They're very tentative to try and push up, and the issue with a Sivir when she's behind is that when she's trying to farm up, and in this lane in particular, she's expending Q, which pushes the wave. She'll be expending W, which pushes the wave, and now without spell shield, she might struggle.
Yeah, now going to get stunned on up by the Zillion. They're just moving forward on for the kill here, and they are going to be able to pick it up off of Guardian Waka's bomb, and that's going to force a flash out of Adam as well. A nice 2v2 kill picked up there for the Grid Reapers, able to play around that spell shield so well to enable Guardian Waka to pick on up that kill.
They need to be careful, the Crab Wranglers. Bot side was their downfall last game, and it could very well be the same once again. What they are doing better, though, is finding advantages across the rest of the map. A solo kill for your Diana, #1 on your checklist. Very, very good for them. Getting broken top lane tier 1 turret as well, also gonna look very good for them. But across the rest of the map, the bot side is once again going back into the Grin Reaper's favor. They're the ones picking up the dragon, they're the ones picking up kills in the bot lane. Of course, the summoner spell out as well, and it could very well start to peter down the same path as game #1.
Yeah, and we can look here. Joker has just built up a substantial lead for himself here. He is the richest man in the game by a significant margin, but we might need to take a break from that as Bully is going in for an engage here onto Adam, but is just going to find himself exhausted onto as Ronan looking for a bit of an engage here as well. Not going to land that Crescent Strike, though. That is going to mean that Bully is just able to walk on out of there. Has to expend the Ghost, but in trade for the exhaust, I'm not going to feel too bad about that one.
Event Horizon as well, able to just buy a little bit of space and make sure that the fight doesn't really resume there. Diana at this stage, not yet based, and we toggled the gold, probably sat on a very large sum of gold as well. 2,250 gold sat in her inventory. So if she gets a recall off before the next fight, she's going to be a completely different fiend. As we move into these fighting stages, we'll have Mythic, we'll have Boots, potentially a little bit of added extra bonuses as well coming on out. So we're waiting for Ronan to back, because he's going to have a massive injection as soon as he does.
Yeah, notably, Ronan does not have the teleport this game, though, so going to be a little bit difficult to find his way into the dragon fight if he takes that recall. He has done so, though, managed to get it on time, and now is going to be able to return back to lane here as that whole new beast that you did bring up, Rude.
No extra goodies beside the boots, but tier 2 boots are a very meaningful power spike here, especially with Vigor not having any magic resistance built in just yet. No null magic mantle, no mercs, no cleanse, no verdant barrier, no nothing like that, which you typically see picked up against these AP mid laners. Of course, cleanse not really going to do you a whole lot of good versus Diana in particular. But by the by, this Diana at this point in the game, very, very scary. And you have a Jinx, you have a Zillion, yes, that could potentially start to take over the game, but they didn't complete their mythic on their base. You can look and you can see there's no, be it Moonstaff, be it the Imperial Mandate, whatever it may be the Zillion picks up, he doesn't have his mythic. Jinx doesn't have the Kraken or Gale Force, where they do across the side of the Crab Wranglers. There's a very real disparity between the items right now. And as we get to this sort of 15-minute marker, at the minute, Crab Wranglers have the advantage. We need to see them continue to snowball it, because if they aren't able to find fights, aren't able to find more advantages, this 2,500 gold that we see is going to be exactly the same in 15 minutes, where you would expect Jinx to just be so much further ahead that it really doesn't matter that you've had this lead so early on, because you need to try and capitalize it on it now.
Yeah, for sure here, as Guardian Waka does have access to the ultimate for any fights that do come up pretty soon here. He's just continuously been throwing out these time shifts, these slows on to the opposing team as they try to move on up into the jungler, presenting a lot of threat to them off of that fact alone, but has not had the follow-up in order to actually pick off any of these targets. So they're able to continuously move on up into this jungle and try to make plays happen. Adam now going to once again find himself slowed on down, has to move away from these time bombs, but he's still able to just throw down wards and make sure that control over this river is maintained for his team.
Yeah, without Dragon being alive for a little bit here, we're seeing the same sort of cycle come into play in this mid game, where we see mid and bot lane go to their lanes, they push in the wave, they then go and help their jungler set up vision. Happened a few times where Diana has just been sort of leaving the Vigar to his own devices once the wave has been shoved in, looking to help out the team as a collective, as opposed to trying to collate more advantages for herself. So with the flash and the ignite available, a solo kill very much on the cards, but using those cooldowns and saving that for the team fight going to be much more impactful here. And we've got about 55 seconds left on the Dragon. You can see resets coming through pretty much across the board. Sivir picks herself up a control ward, tier 2 boots. The Shen now going to reset. Going to be looking to pick himself up a couple more items as well, hopefully. And same can be said for the bot laners across on GRIN Reapers as well. They go back, they pick themselves up that Moonstone, they pick themselves up the Kraken Slayer, and now that disparity in items that we talked about maybe 2 minutes ago no longer exists. And this Drake fight should be on pretty much even footing.
Yeah, certainly should be here. These important mythic items coming on across it is going to be the Moonstone Renewer for Guardian Waka, so able to actually bring in a little bit of sustain beyond his ultimate towards this upcoming fight. Travis also going to have his first item completed as well. Going to be pretty much at parity with this Sivir for the next fight, although does have an extra dagger to his name. Although the positional advantage going to be going over to the Crab Wranglers. They are the first ones here, and with the Bully up in the top lane, it looks like it might be an attempt to trade for the Herald for the side of the GRIN Reapers.
Nice little block from Atom as well, does prevent the Super Mega Death Rocket from stealing away any neutral objectives. Of course, with Jinx in the most recent buff she received is fairly adept at sealing away on those objectives, and I do like the cross map from GRIN Reapers. It might not seem like a lot, but stealing away camps isn't just beneficial in terms of the gold that you get for yourself, it's also good gold denial. But now Billy Willett could struggle.
Yeah, Ronan going to get the first dash out, going to get the reset, and going to be able to follow the flash, which is going to enable him to pick on up that kill. It's going to be a nice second solo kill now of the game to be picked up here by Ronan. Was able to get onto Billy earlier, who's just not having a great matchup here on this Vigar, continuously finding himself picked off by his lane opponent.
Myopia could struggle here now on the top side as well. Spirit Refuge is down.
Yeah, just getting charged right back into the minion wave here as they are trying to stay on top of him. The flash fail from Myopia. That's going to seal his fate as they do go on across with the Call of the Forge God. It's going to be a kill picked up for the Bully. He's now looking to move on to potentially this Rift Herald. This Unbound is finding himself engaged on here as Travis advancing forward, but going to get CC'd a little bit to dissuade any farther engages. But he's feeling a lot stronger on this Jinx now that he's been able to pick up his first item, and he's just trying to aggress along with his Zillion, knows that he has access to the Chrono Shift and that he can take some more aggressive trades.
At any given moment, this bot lane could just explode. And quite literally, right there, firing out the Super Mega Death Rocket to connect onto Atom, unfortunately not the target he was looking for. But with both bot laners now forced to recall, this could very well be the bot lane tier 1 falling. Jinx an absolute menace when it comes to these objectives with Minigun. So that's just going to fall here, and that's another little advantage picked up for the Grin Reapers here. Once again, this bot lane being very self-sufficient, able to generate themselves more and more advantages. There's now an experience lead for both of the laners of their own. And now it's going to be a game of split maps right here. Because we've got a bot lane which is winning for Grin Reaper, but this time there's a very strong top side of the map for the Crab Wranglers. Shen has still got priority over this on the top side, and the most notable disparity, of course, going to be in that mid lane with Diana farming incredibly well, has got 2 solo kills over her Vigar, and is definitely looking like an absolute menace as we move into this mid game. But what we need to see is some fights come on through, and for the most part, Grin Reapers have done a good job at denying that fact. You saw them not go for the dragon just because they knew they were going to be maybe in a bit of a worse position with this Diana. Their main tactic for the time being has been avoidance. It's been try and get away from Diana as best as possible because there's a 2-level lead between these mid laners. It's a very palpable difference that when a team fight arises, you will really be able to see quite how much this difference does mean. And in terms of gold cash values, a 2-level lead for your mid lane mages equates to about 1,000 gold in base statistics that comes from leveling up. So the armor and MR that you get from leveling up, all of that good stuff. About 500 per level with a 2-level lead, of course, equating to that about 1k marker, which is again another one of those intangible gold leads that comes on out.
For sure there, as this Diana really does represent a pretty substantial threat towards the back line of the Grin Reapers, especially as we get into these team fights. The Vigar and the Jinx not going to be your most mobile of carries, so if you're able to find Ronan getting away onto the back line, he's certainly going to be able to make a big difference in this fight, whether the Ornn items have come through or not, as we are seeing Feathers in for inching towards that level 13 threshold, going to start bringing on some of those ornaments as soon as possible, as a little rotation here from the bot lane going to enable them to pick up mid lane turret there. Very nice for them, as Billy Willard now is going to find himself punished for this in the bot lane. He's getting chased onto by Joker, but has a turret there to defend him and is going to be able to actually force on out the Ragnarok off of landing a nice event horizon for himself.
I wondered if we'd seen an all-in right there. Now Bully looking for Ronin, doesn't find the shunt in the right direction. And with Shen right there, they are going to back off to safety, so never mind all of that. But yeah, you're quite right. A rotation into the mid lane, which isn't matched by the Crab Wranglers, means that Grin Reapers just picked themselves up an uncontested mid lane tier 1. Very lackadaisical, to be honest, from the CW side. They shouldn't be giving those ones up so freely and so easily with just simple map movements. You have Sivir, after all, the queen of wave play down in the bot lane, giving up turrets like that. Pretty criminal, unfortunately. But they do have themselves still this incredibly fed Diana. They still have 30 seconds on the Dragon. She's now level 15 as well. 4 levels over the jungler, 2 levels over anybody in particular on the Grin Reaper side. So if you're looking for somebody to be your carry here in game number 2, it's transitioned over to Ronin. We're no longer looking at Myopia as the superstar carry. We're going down into the mid lane this time round, and Ronin to be that one leading force.
Yeah, we're going to see a little bit of setup here for this dragon. Nobody wants to give over the soul point to the side of the Crab Wranglers, and so Grin Reaper is going to be grouping on around here, looking for their entry point. They do have a nice little ward over the wall there that is going to be spotting out onto Adam. It means that they feel safe advancing forward here, but that is going to be Dragon already started on up here. The Bully's going to have to go for a bit of a 50-50 here if he wants to do anything, but he's going to end up getting charmed up by the Encore, followed up with the stun, but now he goes in for the onslaught, and now going to just be taking the fight as Olaf is right in the middle of everybody, and that's a huge moonfall. It's going to enable this fight to be taken here, but Travis and Billy Willard are still alive, and with that front-to-back fight that they wanted, they're going to be able to dominate it. They just rampage on through Travis, doing so much damage. That's going to be the ace for only 2 kills picked up. The Grin Reaper is going to win that fight, going to pick up their second Drake of the game, and going to look to advance into a push.
And I thought it was going to be curtains for Grin Reapers there as they got collapsed upon by the Diana with a massive ulti. But fortunately, they had flashes to expend. They got out to safety. They didn't even use Zillion ulti because Guardian was just eviscerated off the face of the earth by this mid lane mage right here. But overall, the Jinx is able to flash out. She's got Runans. The 4-man, 5-man clump that came through from the Crab Wranglers just sat back and got absolutely melted under this Jinx with Rocket, with Runans, with all of the damage coming out with this Conqueror as well. She was able to absolutely tear through the Crab Wranglers, and they lose themselves the Dragon, but that's most importantly indicative of how the fights are going to continue to go here. we need to start seeing some diversification from the Crab Wranglers, because they've now realized front to back, it just does not work. They have a bigger front line and they have bigger damage in the back line. And now Atom could just struggle with, well, I thought that if Guardian speeds up Jinx there, that's an entirely different situation. But, you know, if we talked in hypotheticals and ifs all the time, we'd be here till the cows came home here, Gordo. So we have to wait and see what comes out in the future for these guys.
Yeah, certainly going to be doing that there. And yeah, as you said, that's the best fight situation you're really going to get on the Crab Wranglers. So definitely a bad sign that they were not able to win out on that fight. They killed the Zillion, as you said, before he was even able to ultimate. The items hadn't really come through for Feathers and Fur yet. The Vigar was still fairly low in the stacks department. And now almost none of those things are true. There's 173 bonus AP on Billy Willard, a lot of which was gained off of assists in that last fight. Feathers and Fur has already gotten the second item upgrade on a cross. It is once again going to be that Wormfall and Sacrifice for Travis. And, you know, Guardian Waka, you would think, is probably not going to make the same mistake twice, going to try to avoid the rest of his teammates for at least a little bit, so that if Diana dives on him, he isn't pulling on in the carries as well. So in future fights, you got to expect the Chrono Shift is going to be used to some degree, and that's just going to make it even harder for the side of the Crab Wranglers. As the Bully going in for another engage here, trying to get onto Adam. He's going to find himself charmed on up and slowed for a second there, but now he's just going to be moving on away.
So Sivir trades ulti for Hecarim Ghost right there. A slight positive trade for the Crab Wranglers. Quite funny just seeing people run at 700 move speed away from one another there. But overall, we're still sort of sat here at this mid game. The gold lead might not seem like it means too much, but it's where the gold is, which is always going to be the sort of telltale feature here. Because if Ronin is able to find that backline flank and able to once again one-shot the bot lane, then this game turns completely on its head, right? We're looking at Billy Willard, and he's not going to be the carry that the team need, unfortunately, in this game. Vigar, notorious for being that single target pick and delete champion with your Primordial Burst coming through. You can take one target down very, very quickly, and with this build as well, you're building more toward utility, toward keeping yourself alive, because we've got ourselves the components of Cosmic Drive, the components of Stopwatch going into Azonius at some point. Everfrost as well is a very strong item, but now Bully is looking for Atom.
That's so much damage coming out from the speed boost of Zillion, just adding even more AD into the Bully's kit, and that's going to enable him to pretty much just one-shot Adam there with the full combo, and that's going to make it a 4v5 on the map. About 90 seconds to go into the next dragon, and they're going to be looking to take control over the area on the side of the Grin Reapers, scanning on out for any wards that might be left behind. They're going to set up some of their own vision as well.
And this is Divine Sunderer Hecarim as well, so that Sheen proc really meaning quite a lot right there, especially as you'd mentioned in tandem with the Zillion move speed boost that he is giving out. Now for Grin Reapers, they need to set themselves up vision, make sure that they have eyes on Diana at pretty much all times, because that is the only threat that they need to be concerned about here, especially with now Hecarim being a potent force that the Crab Wranglers have to deal with. It's not just a Jinx, you're now looking at this big pony that can pump out damage as well. So great, you know, Travis dies, then you've still got this Hecarim that you need to deal with, and Diana, sufficiently worse at dealing with tanks than she is squishies, so that is something to be keeping in mind here. Has reached level 16s though, so if we see one of those big moonfalls again, we're at that max rank. It can't get any better for the Diana in a team fight than hitting 1 or 3 to 4 members, which she did last time, so the team fight still will hinge on a knife's edge, and the sort of past 5 minutes have gone very much in the favor of Grin Reapers, but not to an extent that the game is by any means over, and by any metric by that margin either. So keeping our eyes out for how the fights will go, gonna be pivotal in the setup more so than anything else.
Man, that's going to be Ragnarok forced to be blown there by Joker incredibly early here, prior to the dragon even spawning. But if he wasn't, he was going to get locked in by that event horizon and picked off. So a necessary but unfortunate blow there for him. He's also going to use the ghost there. It's going to make it really hard for him to move forward and engage onto this dragon. Going to narrowly avoid getting stunned by Guardian Waka here on this Zillion. But there's Bully here on the flank. He's not even on the dragon with his teammates because he wants to be able to threaten that giant onslaught across all of the members. And now they're going for it. They're going to force the them on back. Joker now has the Stand United on top of him. He's going to try to invite or fight, and that's going to be a huge charm landed onto 4 targets there from the side of the Encore, but the front line is able to back on out here, as now it's going to be an attempted kite out from Travis here, but he's being chunked out incredibly low. He gets rezzed up by the chrono shift, but it's not going to be enough, and now it looks like Ronan actually finding a way to carry onto this fight. Feathers and Fur can't do it all on his own, and the Bully is over on the other side, but now he's coming on around. He's able to pick up the double kill. He's able to finish off Diana, and now he's moving forward on to Myopia. He's going to be able to finish him as well. A triple kill picked up for the Bully here, along with his Bash brother Feathers and Fur. It doesn't matter, apparently, even if the backline goes down, as the Bully is so huge on this Hecarim.
Exactly as we foretold here, Gordo. They take down Jinx even through Chrono Break. Hecarim is still just too strong right here to take down the rest of the squad. Crab Wranglers fall once again. They lose another dragon. That puts Grin Reapers to soul point. Doesn't give them the soul. There's still this chance. There's still this world where the team fight comes through and the Diana Shen dive means enough, and we're looking at a world where we're hoping that Unbound and Atom can just survive, just sustain the Hecarim somehow. Move speed yourself away. Use the Seraphine to get yourself out to safety. Do whatever you can to keep yourself alive. But if that possibility doesn't happen, and if that can't come to fruition here, then you just feel like the Grin Reapers are going to be in a position to take this game, take this series here 2-0. But it's by no means over yet, Gordo. We saw that start of that fight just be everything that Crab Wranglers were needing. They got themselves a 4-man Encore, and once again forcing several summoner spells out of the fight off the bat. The fact that the fights aren't going their way, it's beginning to look a lot worse for them, and that sort of fear of a bot lane supremacy from games 1 to game 2 is becoming much more of a reality.
Yeah, it really is, and there's even more Ornn items coming across as well. The Starcaster has been given over to Guardian Waka, and before that last fight, the Bully did pick up one of the cooler named ornaments, in my opinion, the Deicide coming through, that upgraded Divine Sunderer, as now they are going to just be able to dominate across these fights. They have the gold lead in their favor at this point. They have the dragon lead in their favor at this point, and they also have all that hidden gold coming in through from the Ornn items to snowball them even farther ahead. And once again, we see the Crab Wranglers get a fight scenario that would seem fairly unlikely and that would seem to be in their favor, in that they're able to get the 4-man Encore. They're able to pick off Billy Willard and Travis. And once again, they still don't win the fight, as just hope seems to be collapsing away for these guys.
I don't want to see Grin Reapers head toward the Baron here. Well, that's exactly where they're heading at the very least. They didn't get the speed trying. The Scuttle Crab is in favor of the Crab Wranglers right here. So starting up this Baron, pretty much impossible here, or at the very least, they're going to be spotted out if they attempt to do so. So they're maybe just looking to wait out this Crab, wait out that possibility before they head over toward that Baron, because 2 minute 40 before the next Drake, you probably want to be getting going with another fight before that.
Yeah, and that's just going to be the onslaught coming right on in. The Call the Forge God not actually going to land on anybody, though, and there's a huge Stand United coming in to protect onto Adam. That's actually going to result in the Bully going on down. They were able to burst out Ronan on the backside, though. The backline has remained alive, has taken virtually no damage, and now are going to be looking to carry on to this fight. They still do have access to the Zillion ult if they want it, and that means that the rest of the Crab Wranglers are just going to have to back away here. They're going to have to settle for a 1-for-1 trade, as Ronan dived onto the backline there and just got taken out.
They didn't do anything. Needs the support of his Olaf and the Shen if the Diana really wants to be achieving anything at all. Myopia looking for a taunt.
Yeah, Myopia going to go for the taunt, but not going to land it. Not going to get stunned up, though, by any of the targets. But there's just so much damage coming on through. That's going to be the ultimate, the primordial burst from Billy Willard, going to enable them to deal enough damage to take on that target. And now with another turret down, that's going to excite the Jinx. That's going to provide even more pressure. That's going to mean that they're going to look to push farther if they want to. Although with Bully coming up in just about 3 seconds, they can also look to set up around this Baron.
With 1 minute 30 on that important Infernal Soul as well, we may just see them default back to another dragon fight here. They have themselves a minute to go back, get your resets in, spend that gold, make sure that you can get up those final few items before the fight comes through. Unfortunately, Jinx isn't going to be able to finish off the LDR here, so cutting through the Shen not going to be quite as easy as she'd have maybe liked. But she's going to have an extra crit cloak, have an extra chance at trying to melt him via other methods here, as opposed to just outright shred coming from that item. The Vigor has picked himself up a completed stop or completed Zhonya's here, so not just relying on that one-time usage, can now be expending that one every 120 seconds there. With some very big ticket item buys on that base right there. So we're definitely looking at Grin Reapers to try and take this fight, and If they get the Infernal Soul, then it becomes a case of, well, now we can do Baron much easier. Now we can take fights very straightforward here, and with a almost complete item discrepancy between the ADCs as well. And that mid lane matchup starting to pair itself up, get closer and closer as well. The advantage of the Diana, not really a fear, or not so much of a factor anymore. Of course, in the late game, she can still pump out damage and can still assassinate your AD carries, but Vigor is now at a point where he can do much the same thing.
Yeah, and that's so much range on those rockets from Travis with that Q maxed on up there, going to enable him to deal even more damage to Joker, and a nice event horizon from Billy Willard going to once again force out the Ragnarok prior to the Dragon fight. That's going to once again make it even more difficult for Joker to try to find his way in and actually get on to that dragon itself. And in that last fight, it meant that they just had to take the 5v5 and can't even really think about contesting the dragon itself. But once again, they're at a positional disadvantage. This time even worse than last time, as the soul going to just be picked up by Bully. No contest available from the side of the Crab Wranglers.
They just don't even bother to go for that one right there. The level disadvantage on the jungler shouldn't be the only deterrent right there for you. They give up that in exchange for a top lane tier 2. That's definitely not worthwhile if you're looking at it from the Crab Wranglers side here. Would have much rather see them focus the Baron if they're trying to do top side objective things, as opposed to just sitting here trying to maybe fish for a dragon steal and then not committing to it at all. What this now means is that the Grin Reapers are going to be in position to start hitting on this Baron here, start making moves to end the game. They've spent quite a while starting to scale up, and we're at 35 minutes now. They are at that late game Exodia. They've got themselves a very big front line in the Ornn with that Gargoyle, with that Sunfire. They've got Hecarim meeting a very nice mix of both damage and tankiness as well. And even if he's going to have Guardian Wacket somewhat nearby, the potential for an Ornn, or the potential rather for a Resurrection to come through onto the Hecarim is going to be so devastating for these Crab Wranglers, because they're going to have to cut through the tanks not once but twice. And it's that 6v5 that we talked about in the draft, which will prove so pivotal if it comes through in a meaningful way. Resurrecting yourself, probably the only champion that isn't going to have the greatest impact.
Yeah, for sure. Even Billy Willard here, set so far behind early, but has definitely caught on up here. We saw just a couple of fights ago, able to dish out enough burst damage to really even threaten Myopia here, and really loving all these percentile AP increases from all of these Infernal Drakes he's built up for himself. Those just stack on with his passive and allow him to get even more ridiculous AP numbers. As now fresh off the Baron, Bully going to go for a bit of an engage here. He's going to pop the Ghost, he's going to dash on in. Joker has already been completely blown up by the back line, wasn't able to get through at all there. Maybe a little bit of damage onto Travis, and with that man down, it's going to be a 5v4 on the map. Little resets coming on through, but it does look like the Grin Reapers are in a good position to maybe set up a siege here. A little bit of a dash in from Bully as well. He's feeling really powerful here on this Hecarim and knows that nobody can really threaten him.
Especially with Zilean at the back as well, you have effectively your entire health bar as a resource right here. Quite rightly, Myopia doesn't expend the Stand United to try and help the Olaf right there. He was caught in absolutely no man's land, would have almost certainly fallen through both of them. And now, Feathers and Fur, he just has to run interference. Myopia is trying to get back and defend the base. With no TP, the Ornn is going to be struggling to get there himself. You can see that this is a very conservative effort from the Grin Reapers right here. They could have maybe tried to hit on some of those Nexus turrets. Instead, they're going to play it slow, they're going to play it safely, more importantly, and they're going to look toward bot lane to get themselves the mid lane inhibitor. Recognize that, okay, if Joker comes back and respawns and they've got Shen at their backs as well, there's nothing left for us to do here in a 4 versus 5 situation. We're going to use the Baron once again. We're going to break more turrets, use Jinx to her greatest capability, and continue to find the fight.
Yeah, but Ronan going to get hit by a zap. They're going to go all in onto Guardian Waka there. The ultimate has already come down, but it was onto Travis, so it's not going to save him. But that just means that there's no opportunity for this carry to be taken down at all. Didn't even get any damage forced onto him, as they were able to take the front-to-back team fight that they wanted, and that's just absolute domination for the side of the Grin Reapers. Travis going to take up a couple of turret shots for funsies and be able to trade for a kill anyway, as 4 members of the Crab Wranglers are going to fall on down, and with the Baron in their pockets as well as the Infernal Soul, it does look like these 3 members of the Grin Reapers are going to look to close out this game.
Yeah, we've got Billy Willard trying to focus the minions in from the mid lane, try and shepherd them as well, make sure that they can dish out damage to the other Nexus turret here. Unbound, Sivers good at wave clear, but up against 2 Baroned up waves, maybe not good enough.
Nah, it's going to be the GRIN Reapers taking this series up 2-0. 2 back-to-back games with some nice straightforward drafts with intelligent game plans and good execution coming in through from the GRIN Reapers, really demonstrating why they've been able to move up to the top of the standings in this group, why they were at 4-0 coming into the week and are now going to be sitting happily at 5-0. And just nothing but praise for these guys. They've executed both their compositions as close to perfection as you could hope for.
That's pretty exactly right. Game number one, they drafted themselves winning bot lane, and they just absolutely slammed. They played through that pretty much perfectly. Game number two, they had to play a bit more reserved, a bit more conservatively, and they do so. They throw a couple of a couple of sort of Hail Marys by giving over a couple of kills to Ronin. The solo kills in the mid lane stand out as a bit of a sore point here in the game, which by and large was very well played by the GRIN Reapers here. Of course, had to have been for them to have come out with the win in the first place, but it was the same sort of identity as game number one, where we look at Travis, we look at Waka, and we think, well, these guys are going to start carrying at some point. It's just a matter of time before that happens.
Yeah, and good job by the side of the Grin Reapers to draft towards that advantage. And the Crab Wranglers playing towards their draft as well. They got ahead early on the Olaf. They got the first dragon for themselves. They were able to play through their lanes, but just not able to keep it going and not able to snowball hard enough to defeat the scaling composition of the Grin Reapers. And 2 Ornn games going to be 2 games where eventually this it just becomes an insurmountable advantage for the for the Grin Reapers against the Crab Wranglers. That's going to result in a nice 2-0 victory for the Reapers today.
And they take themselves up, of course, to that 5-0, still undefeated in series tallies in Division 4 here for the pre-made Rampage. So they're looking to cement themselves as that top spot. There's another team challenging them. They are also 4-0. The name eludes me right now, but they're currently also 4-0, looking to sort of challenge them for that point. So when those two teams start to butt heads and come to blows with one another, that could be a fairly worthwhile matchup to maybe at least keep track of if you're trying to see who's making the moves in this division. Because of course, with 10 teams in every division, top 4 going into playoffs, seeding can mean everything as well.
Yeah, definitely can, and all the more reason to stay tuned to this Rampage League week in and week out. But that is going to do it for our stream here today. Stay tuned to the Risen Twitter for when Risen is going to be live with other streams. We'll be back with more Rampage League next week. But for the time being, that's going to be it for us. I've been Gordo. This has been Rudude. Thank you guys all for tuning on in.
Take a moment right here, feeling like it's out gear. Driving towards the sun with a rose and a gun. Feel the wind in my hair, going nowhere I swear. Like an outlaw on the run, dangerous but it's so fun. Running, running, no. Hold on, don't let go. Running, running, no. Keep running. Told my boss that I'm done. Had no luck with my mom. Say, what will you do with your life? You know it's hard to survive. A cigar in my mouth. Maybe guilty but proud. Now I'm an outlaw.